still hear me okay? And on the call this evening, we're going to run through some live contributions from some people and some contributions that others have sent in advance if they weren't able to make it live. I'm really grateful for everyone for their contributions, from Mohammed, David, Mark, Simon, Roger and Sophie. So thanks so much for preparing for tonight and being willing to share, and also to Gail for helping me, and I'm at the bottom there, Helen Smedley, so that you know who we are if you don't already know us. And we will have time for discussions later on, so I am going to try and move things swiftly through the first part of the evening so that we've got plenty of time for you to discuss and raise your points and experiences, what you've found in working with juniors in archery. The Monday Natters sessions are all about discussion, so really keen to make sure there's enough time for discussions and questions. So I've mentioned Monday Natters. So what is Monday Natters? It's a series of free webinars starting tonight. This is the first one, but we are actually on every other Monday night. So it might be something that you can pop in your diary as to something you can drop into. It's going to be the same link every other Monday night, just to make it as simple as possible for as many people to access it as they wish. There's a different topic each week, so we can look in more detail at one topic a week, an opportunity to share good practice amongst the archery community. So yeah, that's a little bit about Monday Natters. You sign up for all of them through the members portal, as most of you have already done, so you know how to do that. So tonight, as I mentioned, it's great if you could stay on mute. It helps us with the background noise, and use the chat box. Your camera is optional. It's always really nice to see a face when someone's speaking, but it's not compulsory. Or if you've got things going in the background, we understand. As I say, we do have some people ready to share this evening, a sort of panel, and they're going to share their top tips with you. And we want to, if possible, follow an archer's journey through when they join, through to hopefully up to competing and at county level. But we're aware that really you need to have created a healthy junior club, or a club that is able to accept juniors before you start doing that outreach, so that you know that once they come through to your club, you've got a structure there to welcome them. So just a point that you're going to need to focus on sort of step 2 almost before doing step 1. But we will go through track a junior's life cycle, if you like, through their route through archery. We're going to point you to some resources. We've got some junior members on the call tonight, which I'm thrilled about. They have an opportunity to share later, but there's no pressure to share anything. Just think it's really important that those that are juniors have a voice. So just to give you a heads up, that will be coming later, and it's totally optional. And we'll end with discussion and questions. So I'm going to hand over now to Mohammed, who's going to talk to us a little bit about reaching out to where juniors are and your experiences in schools work, I believe, Mohammed. So thanks very much for being online tonight. So I'm going to hand over to you.
Okay, so good evening to you all, and it's nice to be part of this event. Just initially, before I go into, I think, the top kind of 10 tips to share with you, just a really quick background. I mean, the Leicester Archery Academy has been around since 2004, and I'm obviously I work with Gail and the team in terms of I'm an AGB mentor, part of the ambassador program. Pre-COVID, our membership was around 110 members, of which 70 were juniors, so quite a very healthy junior membership. And the club is registered as part of the Community Specialist Club on the On Target Development Programme. So when we started the club, after about a couple of years on, we started to work quite closely with local schools and colleges. The idea was to kind of increase the participation in archery, but also kind of bring another potential avenue for increasing our membership. Our membership does vary. We obviously very much in a city club, so we have lots of people from the black and ethnic minorities, but we've also attracted people from various communities within Leicester, which has also the advantage of bringing communities together, etc. And we've worked not just with mainstream schools, but we've also worked with a special needs school as well, which I think has helped to introduce archery to people with a registered disability and so on. Now I'm going to try and if I can hopefully share my screen, if that's okay with Helen.
I'll just check that you can do that.
Can do that, please. It's giving me an option to do that. I don't know if I can just click on it, and then if not, then you can tell me.
Yeah, it should allow you to do that now. Okay,
so I thought as I talk you through the kind of 10 key things I've learned from working with schools and colleges, I thought it'd be good to just have a summary of the 10 points that I'm going to hopefully kind of talk through. So the first thing is how to go about approaching schools in the first place. There's two options. One is a very direct approach to the different schools within your locality. And we did that. We very much kind of sent emails into the school, initially to, depending on the school, secondary school, we were aiming for very much the head of PE department. And if it was just normal kind of primary junior schools, it was very much aiming at the head of, the PE teacher. Another avenue, and I know a lot of councils have what they call local school partnerships, and they obviously do promote different types of sports within schools. And I think archery, is quite unique. A lot of people want to have a try within the school environment, within their kind of school, and even after school clubs. So it does appeal to them as well, and they can be a great avenue of promoting the sport and the club and what we offer. Another thing which is really important to begin with is portable equipment. We managed to source some really easy transfer kind of targets that are easy to carry around, and with a kind of a big bag, we were able to store in there target stands which are actually made for purpose, and a nets, etc. But it's actually how you install that on site. You've got to be, you don't have much time in many ways, because it could be within a PE lesson and you have to really be quick. So netball posts and things like that can be quite useful if you haven't got this kind of physical place to hang nets on. So there is all that kind of logistics that need to be thought through, and that is obviously you go down to school, you kind of make sure you can check that it's suitable or not. Thirdly is obviously insurance. If it's just a normal have a go session, that normally is covered by AGB, but we did have to take out extra sport insurance, and there are certain providers out there that will provide you with insurance cover. Risk assessment. Most schools, most colleges would want to see that everything has been ticked off, and that obviously there is no risk. So the normal kind of protocols that you'd follow running a club would apply within a school environment, college environment, etc. They'd want to see your DBSs, for example. They want to see your insurance cover. Those would normally be kind of provided as part of the initial discussion. Again, a lot of schools, even the school partnership, but definitely the schools, would always want to ask you, what can the children do after they've done a program with you at the school? And that's where the pathway to the club is really important. So what we tried to do was mirror the actual 6-week course that we have, but that would be over normally 9 sessions, because you don't have as much time. Normally be like a 45-minute, an hour PE session. So we normally spread it around 9 sessions, but then it'd be the same program that you would do normally as you would do in the club, the beginner's course. And that would then allow them, and at the end, you would then give the information how to carry on if they wanted to. We did in one school, which we really worked very close, a secondary school, along with the school partnership, we set up a satellite club there. So it was on a Wednesday evening after school. So instead of just calling it an after school club, we actually made it a satellite club where anybody could just drop in and have a go session. Very popular as well. I think we used to get really about 40, 50 kids sometimes. It was a bit too much in many ways, but it was a very popular avenue you. So that's another option. Important, I think, to do the basics again in terms of in one school, which I used to do quite regular with quite young children, and they were going to be with me for a whole year, and every Monday session I did the progress badge with them to the same scheme that the Archery GB have. And that was really popular because children really do love getting badges, and it's like quite competitive, but really kind of. And at the end of the term, I'd go into a school assembly and do a presentation. So I had hand the badges out. I'd also give them certificates, and again, the parents would be there as well. So we got a lot of buy-in, and again, parents would talk to you and say, oh, how can they carry on? Can we come down to the club and have a look at the club and so on? I think it's important not to ignore diversity. So, there's different types of schools, religious schools within our kind of Leicester area, special needs schools. We did approach them. And again, we did offer archery in different ways. With the special needs school, for example, quite local to where I am, they have like a residential in the evening. So I would go with one of my disabled coaches actually, and we do a kind of an evening event from 6 till 7 when the children just had their kind of food and everything, and they'd be quite relaxed. And it was really good fun. It's quite memorable kind of experience that we had there. I think overall, when you're trying to run archery, as you do in the club, but very much with schools and even colleges, it has to be fun. You need to really structure whatever you're delivering, bring some competitiveness into that. And overall, I think it's that progress that people want to see week on week, and that really keeps them going and kind of gives them that drive that actually there's something I could actually do, which I never thought I had before. And I think for the individuals, and I think this is the last point I'd make, obviously, is you are relying, obviously for me, it was kind of period where I was kind of a bit of time on my hand with all the other work I do. So I was able to kind of organize my diary. I think it's trying to get people within the club, volunteers that have got time that could, join you or help you, and encourage them that, it will develop their coaching skills. We always used to get references from the sessions we delivered. I've got a few on our website, that have been given over the years that can, people can go in and see the kind of feedback that we've had, and that can encourage others to actually come on board. And it obviously ultimately helped to build a profile for our club. We did it for nearly about 8 years. I think over the last 2 or 3 years, it got to a point where I just got too busy with other stuff and I didn't really have any coaches really to run the session. But even now, before pre-COVID, I would still get inquiries, can you do this, can you do that? And we'd have to say no, but there is definitely a demand there, and it's a great way to increase the club membership. So those are my top 10 tips, obviously, from the years I've done experience. I don't know if the questions and answers at the end, possibly, I guess, unless
that's
nodding there, so that's a yes.
Yes, that's really good. Thank you, Mohammed. That's really helpful. And as you mentioned, we will pick up questions and answers at the end, unless there's something that someone wants to raise immediately. I'll just look to Gail in case there's anything. No, that's fine. Okay. So, there's one popped in there. Do you have an age limit, Mohammed? Do you have an age limit?
So obviously what we did in terms of the club, it's obviously the age is 7. But when I used to go into schools, because some of the children I used to work with very much one-to-one, then I was able to do 5 upwards, but the equipment had to be the lightest that we could have. But generally, for the path into the club, you had to be 7 upwards. Okay, thank you. Yeah, and that's something that, again, we can pick up in discussion later on. I'm going to share my screen again now, and thank you, Mohammed. We're going to move to David next, to David Winter, who's going to share, and I've got some screens that he sent in advance. Over to David. Thank you for joining us this evening, David. Can you hear us okay?
Okay, yes, I can. Could everyone hear me? If you cannot understand my accent, I will go stronger.
No, that's lovely. Thank you.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is talk through the junior group or section at the Guildford Archery Club. So the first slide here just shows we started quite a few years ago with 4 juniors, with basically 2 of us together saying, well, what are we going to do with the club? And the chairman came up and said, why don't you start one? So, right, and we had this long winding path where the numbers grew and grew, and we learned what we were trying to do in a better way, until we peaked around about 62 juniors just before the end of 2019. And currently we have 15. Age range has widened, where the original 11 to 15 of these 4 people, we're now up to 10 to 17 years of age. And we also allow those that have turned 18 during the year to still retain their junior involvement because all their friends there. That's the main thing. So I've grouped this together in areas as opposed to doing that. Yes. Oh, someone's been playing around with pictures. See? Okay, next slide. Prerequisites. Right. So the first thing is stating the obvious. If there's no demand in your club for a junior group, then don't bother starting one until that demand is there, until someone has a vision of what that group could be within your club environment. There are 2 sort of legal things that we do require to have. Those are a safeguarding officer that's easily recognised in the club, and we do recommend within Guildford that we have a male and female representative so we can cover all issues. And the junior leaders themselves need to be DBS checked, and we also recommend that they have an NSPCC or equivalent awareness certification as well. Okay, we move on to the next slide, please. Right, this is building. I like the artwork there, Helen. I like the artwork. Building the club. So what we're going to do here, so I'm not going to read out the whole slide. I'll let you do that. You're probably faster reading than I'm speaking. But the main thing we did find is we do want commitment from the organisers. If the organisers are going to walk away after 3 or 4 weeks, you're not going to get the consistency. You're not going to get the continuity and regularity of a junior group. We also need to engage not just the 2 people who have been volunteered, I'll put that in inverted commas, volunteered to form the junior section or club, but we also need to engage all the other members that we can. That includes the full executive, parents that come along, people who say, I've got a junior, can they join, engaging with them. Other part is to make it visible within the archery, Guildford Archery Club's agenda of shooting. So we have a separate time at a venue. So everyone knows at this time on a Saturday morning between 10 o'clock and 12 o'clock, this space is reserved for junior shooting only. As it advances, you can maybe extend that to a junior shooting with a parent. And that's something that we did do. And that turned out to be very good and very competitive, especially when the juniors beat seniors. But that's something we have to again look at in view of the COVID situation. We took an approach where, to begin with, we're trying to get fun into what's happening. So the juniors either come off a beginner's course in the early days, and our idea was to try and engage them in the fun side of the sport with games that they can organise, not organise, but games that they can structure, design themselves, and also providing them with a good foundation in the safety side of archery. The etiquette involved with the line, the safety and how to shoot safely by themselves and in teams as well. So we had some great fun trying to do cricket and 10-pin bowling and copying the Olympics head-to-head type competitions. That worked well, but that was combining the focus on the fun and the safety. The fee structure has to be thought about. What are you going to charge for a junior coming to your club? And we had a very attractive fee structure which parents thought was good for one, but you've got to think again, some may have 2, 3 or more juniors at the club. And the last thing about building is think about succession. The people who were there originally, myself and this other person, Dave Stranks, we are now handing this over. We've been there for a few years now, something like 8 or 9 years. It's time it moves on. So we have to think about succession planning. Don't just think it's going to go by itself. Earmark or ask some members of your club, are they willing to go forward? Are there any parents that would like to continue helping with the club going forward? Can we have the next slide, please? What comes after building? Is it going to come up? Yeah, right. So this slide here just shows that if you've got a junior group working, it's quite important to get some form of identity. When we first started, it was called the Rookies because the people who were there were really novice archers. So we got everything to get this identity. We would do group warm-ups and group cool downs. We don't allow them to do them individually. We form them into a group and say, right, we're going to do all the warm-ups, introduce all the different types of exercises that we have for doing that, and introduce the cool downs as well. Any new member that used to come along, we would make sure that they were introduced to all the other juniors that are there, getting their names, asking them to go and work together, and then cross-checking during the period that how you're getting on, and just check, do you know who this person is? Oh, you haven't introduced yourself yet. Please introduce yourselves. Same thing goes for the parents. Parents themselves have to be introduced. It's amazing how many shows, like the two Ronnies, I remember this a long time ago, where in a party, they didn't know each other and they didn't know their names the whole period. It's amazing how adults don't like introducing themselves very much. So you have to break that ice. Other part of the section identity was it's fun. So here we are, social events. Things like Easter, Christmas, fun shoots that were organised by, the thoughts were suggested by the juniors and executed by the organisers and the parents. And Halloween is always good fun if it doesn't get too wild. As the section evolved over the years, we found that, okay, we became involved in competitions. I think that what we call junior friendly competitions in the region, where a complete novice can go, not quite a complete novice, someone who's just come from beginner's course, shoot safely, can go along and have fun at an external event. So we started building the junior teams who had junior team t-shirts, and then we tried to get the juniors to wear the club t-shirts if we can get the sizes small enough. That's the only big issue that we had there. Then when you look around at the club, you think, they're not rookies. We've got some juniors that can knock spots with some of the seniors in the club. So they are now juniors. So we actually rebadged ourselves from rookies to juniors to expand the cohesiveness of the whole group from the novice all the way through to the archer that is probably now on some of the pathways in AGB. Don't forget the parents. Parents bring them along to the club, parents take them away. All the guardians, parents guardians, same thing. Give the parent the progress update so they can reinforce what's going on back at home with the junior. What we are planning to do next. Seed them to say, right, this is what is going to happen. Warning, you are not setting up another club within a club. So with this here, I've mixed up from a section to the junior club, to the junior section, to the junior group. Be careful not to isolate yourselves from the other members of the group. The seniors, not all seniors will like shooting with juniors. That's something we found. So what we like to do is juniors bring the parents into the club and vice versa. So the senior shooter may have some children or godchildren or grandchildren that can come along. So try and make sure that they don't feel there's a competition within the club, that there's a junior section here getting more attention and the seniors. Okay, move on to the next slide. I'll see what my time's like. Right. Okay, so once you've got the identity, you've got the building process. What are you doing within that session? And I've just called that's coaching. So in the beginning, we had 4. We are not looking at one-to-one coaching. We are looking at taking all 4, bringing them up together to whatever standard they could reach. Again, you're not just coaching the junior, you're coaching the guardian. Because some of these juniors will be too small, excuse me, they won't be able to string a ball properly. Or they won't be able to put a flexion back on again. So when you're coaching, you're not just coaching the junior, you're coaching the junior plus parent. When the juniors progressed, we introduced the concept of having a coaching booklet, which we gave each junior and asked them to record their equipment and the various stages of coaching that they have received and who from. We had various attempts of trying to introduce one-to-one coaching. Very hard to do on a given day, like the Saturday, because we have all other juniors to look after, but in the evenings when there's still daylight. I'm being very cognizant that some of them have got school homework to do and they've probably got an early start in the morning. As we went along, also the GAC progressed, where we had more level 1 coaches, or 2, and we got counted, not quite senior counted, or what the new name is for that, but we have expertise now within the club, whereby some of that expertise can be pushed towards the junior area and help us see what we can do next. Last in 2019, sounds long ago now, 2019, we actually started breaking into the juniors with the technical framework approach, which is taking the juniors now that have just come off the beginner's course, say this is what you're doing, fine, yes, you know that, now we're going to show you the remainder of the shot. But be warned, there are some pitfalls. If you've got 5 or 7 coaches walking up and down the line, you don't want one junior to hear 5 or 7 things that may be wrong with their shot with different viewpoints. That can be very confusing. It introduces the mixed messages and it can demoralize or demotivate that junior to learn more. Then we have the other coach who's so enthusiastic, basically does the whole archery book on the junior with technical information, specific information, and that information, and information overload. So if you are walking up and down the line, looking after juniors, be aware of that coach. Just pull them to one side and say, 2% of what you say there, that's all you need to say at this time. Don't give them everything. Again, you're looking at motivation all the time. Too many coaches or one person muddying the waters. One person over enthusiastic can demotivate, and the last thing you want is a junior crying on the line. Next slide, please.
Okay, we've probably just got 1 or 2 minutes left, David. Okay.
This will be it. I think what's the next slide? Right, I'll just go through that quickly, 1 or 2 minutes. Right. Okay. So how do we know things were getting different? This is what I'll look back on. I'll give you a few minutes to read through what's saying rather than me go through each one. I'll pick up maybe one point. We did do a 5-year plan in 2014. I found it the other day, and we actually made all our targets in 2019. Okay. What's the other thing I can see there as a possible one? We have junior teams attending away tournaments, and we're doing fairly well there. We are now looking at coaching on a one-to-one basis. That is happening. And we have a critical mass now we've got. So when these things start coming into play, and you get these requests from juniors for one-to-one coaching, you get requests from juniors to participate in away tournaments, that's a sign that you're maturing as a group. And then the last slide, Helen, and that would be it.
Okay.
You'll get a copy of all these slides, so that's what I'm looking at down. Really, there is no fixed recipe on how you go from A to B in forming a junior club. The path you follow will be determined by your own club environment, its infrastructure, and your membership makeup. But the areas I've talked about, the building, the coaching, the prerequisites, are all areas that you will visit more than once, in whatever order, in that process of building your club up. As far as the GAC juniors are going, we're trying to see where we can go with the stop and go situation that we have just now with the COVID. But fun. The slide on the left is for real. During the Junior Acorn 2019, when the lunch break was on, we held a Quidditch tournament because the whole theme was Harry Potter, and over 60 juniors participated, including some of the adults roaring on, just say, shouting for their junior and whatever house they happen to be playing for. Okay, that's it from me. Thank you very much.
That's fantastic, David. Thank you very much. I'd love to have a go at that Quidditch.
We still got the hoops, but we haven't got the...
That's excellent. And thanks. And once again, we can come back to some questions a bit later, unless Gail wants to chip in at this point.
It was just a quick question for David. Sophie's asked, would it be possible to share your coaching booklet?
I don't see why not. It's not copyright.
Brilliant. If you don't mind sending it through to Helen, then we can share it post-workshop. Thank you. And there's a question from Mohammed as well. Do you offer discount on membership for families?
The structure we have just now is a fee for the, if it, say it's a senior fee, and each junior has their own fee. We don't discount if there's 3 or 4 just yet, but now we've got a new online membership system. That is something we can look at. It's easier to handle.
Great, fantastic. Thank you, David.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. And Mark is not able to be with us this evening, but Mark Tamlin from Wellington Castle Archers had sent through his thoughts and his reflections on his experiences, which I'll just summarise for you now in the following slides. Mark was really keen to stress the point that we've already had made, really, that the structure is everything. Be really clear about your structure and be really organised in terms of what your structure is in terms of your team that are putting the junior provision on. Parents would be much happier if there's a clear structure. But in Mark's club and in lots of other clubs here, which I think is different to David's club, parents are not expected to stay in the junior session, so they're able to leave their children with the coaches. The coaches need to be dedicated, therefore, to running that session. It could be that it's at the time when another club session is happening, if you've got the space to be able to do that, and the volunteers, or it could be at a separate time in the week. So consider your length of session. Obviously, the younger the archer, the shorter the session. And as David has made the point there, fun and engaging sessions really are what we're aiming at. In Mark's club at Wallingford, they do start young. They start about 5 or 6, I believe mostly 6-year-olds. But if you are starting with very young archers, they would need to be separated from the rest of the club and be heavily supervised until they're able to join open club sessions. And that wouldn't be down to age, that would be about ability that they feel is important. The next slide will come up now, and this is about the relationship with the parents. Mark was keen to stress the point that, don't be afraid of having to charge for a junior club if you're thinking about charging, that actually when you consider the costs, if you are incurring extra costs, maybe for equipment, maybe for other things, then parents will pay if you're providing a good service. The key is to have that structure and professional approach, and to make sure that you're clear on why you're charging and what you're going to do with that money, how you're going to invest it back in the juniors. Parents who aren't involved in archery themselves will appreciate a lot of guidance, and David had already made that point, especially when it comes to equipment. We know that if there's a birthday coming up or if there's Christmas coming up, then they may well be thinking about equipment. So do get in there early if you can, to try and explain the kind of journey that that junior might be going on, when it might be the right sort of time to be thinking about equipment. And Mark was keen to stress that don't just point them to a shop. If you can, try and guide them as to what they might expect and roughly the sorts of prices that they should be expecting to pay. And discuss those nice and early, as teenagers love to have a good present idea. Progress. At Mark's Club at Wallingford, they use the World Archery Beginner Awards. They find them really amazing and super helpful for juniors. They particularly like the way they incorporate not just achieving something, but understanding something. So as well as accomplishment, they're keen on what the juniors are actually learning. He makes the point there, although beyond the blue arrow, it becomes hard and complicated indoors. For progression through these badges, or if you're using another scheme, sometimes it might take some time to progress on to the next level, but if they're engaged, that was not a problem. So Mark made the point there, journey from red feather to blue arrow could take as much as 4 years, but if they're engaged, that would be fine. It's important to be offering that feedback and make sure that they're progressing through that period of time. Competing is important, but Mark wanted to make the points that competitions can be scary and intimidating for juniors. That's just a hurdle that needs to be got through. So for some juniors, it's about being there with them through that process. And for others, it might be that competition isn't for them. But don't be put off initially if they are intimidated by their first competitions. Some have major meltdowns at early competitions and need that encouragement. But the important thing is that the communication is open and you can discuss what did they learn, why did it go wrong, how did they feel, how can you get over that together. And it also is key to choose the right events to recommend, maybe going as a group, supporting the archers emotionally before and afterwards, making a big difference. And once you have this sort of approach, you may find that the structure and the support you've put in place is actually really helpful for adults. Maybe Mark wanted to make the point that they found it especially helpful for adult women. And some of the reasons why that might be the case at Wallingford Castle are when you've got a clearly communicated structure and time in the week, then you may find that that's really helpful for women who have a very busy work week. Not saying that men don't have the busy work week, but they've just found through their experience that actually adult women have found a similar approach really helpful for them. So they're Mark's main points, and Simon was going to be the next person sharing. Now, Simon, are you able to share? Are you on the call this evening? I know that Simon did have a work issue earlier which was holding him up. If so, we'll move on, that's fine, and we'll see if we can come back to Simon later.
Helen,
Yes.
Sorry to butt in. We've just had a couple of comments following your presentation. So Ben said that they offer to send the coach to the archery shop with the junior, which is fantastic support. And Philip has mentioned that he's also a big fan of the World Archery Award scheme, and it works really well with adults as well as juniors, and also juniors with SEN.
Great.
So yeah, thank you for those comments.
Yeah, that's really good feedback. Thank you. Okay, so again, Roger has asked me to share his feedback this evening because he's suffering with a cough at the moment, so didn't feel able to talk you through it himself. But I'm really appreciative of Roger's feedback here, and particularly focusing in now on developing and retaining juniors in clubs. Once you've already got juniors in your club, what's the focus on retaining them and progressing them into competitions in particular? Roger was happy to share his email, so if there are points that you'd like to email Roger about in this presentation that I can't answer, then do take a note of his email address there on screen, or you can contact us for that. So Roger was keen that the environment that the juniors will experience is considered. So make sure you've got your basics in place, understanding what your members want and how you're going to achieve it. Think about your capacity, as you can see there, facilities, time availability, coaching arrangements. You've got to consider the key areas of mission statement and policies. Safeguarding, obviously, there's the Archery GB safeguarding policy, so you can look that up. If you're not familiar with it, it's all there for you. It's very comprehensive and we can provide support with that. You're thinking about junior membership structure, etc. Behaviours expected. And at Deer Park Archers, they make sure that that's very clear. And their emphasis is really on developing the individual, not just their archery potential, but them as an individual, their whole self. And that was a main point from Roger's feedback. Ensuring from day one of the balance of give and take, and that's the junior and the parents. A workable communication system needs to be in place, and striving to integrate the juniors into the whole club. So at Deer Park, they encourage the parent or the grandparent and the guardian to join in, to do a beginner's course, maybe do that along with the junior, but there's always a route in for home, basically. Think about your best coaches to run those beginners courses. Maybe involve members in your club who are teachers, who already have that natural approach to good learning. Obviously, there'll be others that have that as well, that maybe not teachers, but think about their approach to juniors in particular. And follow up graduation from beginners courses onto improvers workshops or practice sessions, allocating the appropriate coach or mentor, understanding the juniors' needs, ambitions, social skills. It's a point that's already been made this evening, but opportunities to team build and bond with other juniors. Obviously, we know that's very important, the social element of shooting in a group. So then social opportunities, in addition to the archery, is important for the parents to engage with each other. And he's mentioned there about lift sharing, which obviously is not practical at the moment, but in normal times to consider. And then important to know where the junior is coming from, so about the parents and the guardian, the circumstances, engaging with them, supporting them to the club, and also creating appropriate separation, independence from home or from the parent if necessary, for the junior to have that space to develop in their own right. So something for everyone, shooting and non-shooting. We've mentioned individual approach to coaching. So lots of things to consider when considering coaching, formal, informal, in a group or individual, face-to-face or Zoom. Recognizing that many prefer random or occasional coaching sessions. Again, it's that ethos of developing the whole person rather than just their archery scores. So at Deer Park, they're keen to really understand the archer's needs. Junior only sessions, Roger's making the point there, they're not excluded from general sessions. They're special extras that they put on only for juniors, mixed shooting, team building, social. There's unusual archery-based events that they've developed at Deer Park, competitions, which you can see listed there. And they're keen to recognise success at whatever level it's achieved. So sharing that with parents, with maybe the schools, maybe through newsletters, videos, and top recognition is based at Deer Park on the balance of performance and volunteer contribution. So they're developing the whole archer again. You may choose to pick them to represent the club, and also at Deer Park, really keen to support DofE, the Duke of Edinburgh Award. They found that Duke of Edinburgh as a whole process is very productive for them in terms of recruitment, basically through the volunteer workforce. So they've attracted volunteers through the people they've supported and had contact with through DofE. And some more points continued on. So a range of social events have been organised at Deer Park, and you see some of the pictures that have been coming up are all from Deer Park. So a range of different things that really help build the social side of the junior club. And they develop the individual according to ability, experience and needs. So a range of different things for different personalities. Invitation only junior development opportunities or family workshops, and they've been monitoring everyone and particularly looking out for those that are struggling. Where appropriate, do not hesitate to switch bow type or go back to basics, maybe change equipment. And they've been proactively looking for equipment improvement or exchanges. And there's some grant support opportunities available at Deer Park. So now looking at competition in particular, Roger was keen to make the following points on screen. So make sure that there's a range of different competitions or competitive opportunities for the archers. It could be record status, but also many other club shoots. Random challenges at practice sessions, maybe involving the parents and siblings. That's always very healthy if you can beat your brother or sister. Invite other clubs juniors, that would add a competition element. I'm not entirely sure what Roger's speed bumps were. That would be a question that I'd love to be asking him on another opportunity, but obviously we understand the point there. Promoting independence, think probably, you know, creating those challenges and opportunities to learn and be stretched. The progress awards structure, so we've had that mentioned this evening already. Handicap events, mixed team mixed abilities, ages, bow types, and postal shoots. So in terms of retaining juniors, the next slide should come up for you now. Retention is related to the type recruited, developmental experience offered, parental engagement and club identity achieved. And these factors can be influenced positively by the club to varying degrees, perhaps with the exception of the critical mass required to make the junior section of a club. It's influenced by many external factors. The measure of success should be how few leave for reasons outside of your control at the club. So at Deer Park, they've had far more juniors leave than progress to seniors, but a high proportion of seniors come from the parents of the juniors that are involved. And a large percentage of the volunteer workforce, which we've mentioned already, come from parents of the juniors. So it's a great way to grow your club. The younger the juniors, the more likely you are to get volunteer workforce parents. And you might consider working with juniors from another club or within the county, inviting them along, and just needs to be handled sensitively so it's clear that it's for competitive reasons, that you're not looking to just recruit their juniors. So I'll just check in with Gail to see if there are questions, but our next speaker would be Sophie otherwise. Any questions that have popped up, Gail?
No questions, but Mohammed has just said that he's very impressed with the work Roger does at Deer Park, and I said we'd pass it on to Roger.
Absolutely, yeah. And Roger's also offered to be available to pick up people's questions. So if there is a question that you would like to ask, then please raise it with us. So big thanks to Roger for those pieces of experience and feedback. And Sophie, I would like to hand over to you now for us to look at developing and progressing juniors at county level.
Can you hear me all right?
Oh, it's just a little bit on the quiet side. Are you there?
Oh, I'm there. Can you hear me all right?
I can only just hear you actually, Sophie. I don't know if there's a way of turning you up. Let me just check.
How's that? Any better?
That's a bit better. Gail, how's your volume level?
A bit quiet as well.
Oh no.
It may just be that everyone needs to turn you up a little bit, Sophie, when you're talking. Or if you can get any closer to your microphone, I'm not sure if that will help.
Is that any
That's about the same for me, but as I say, if everyone turns the volume up, I'll be quiet so that you can go for it. Okay.
I'll try and speak as loudly as I can to make sure that everyone can hear me all right.
Oh, it's getting louder. That's much better,
Oh,
actually.
Perfect. Okay.
And just also for you to know, Sophie, sorry to interrupt you, I've got all your slides available, so just shout when you want some slides showing.
I think we'll have my picture slide. I don't really want to go through the whole of the parent PowerPoint. I think that might.
Okay,
But
I'll whiz through to the pictures then.
If you just put the picture on.
The photos.
Yeah, if that's all right.
Okay.
Perfect. Brilliant. So I'm in a really fortunate position that I've been doing archery for 22 years. So I started off as a junior and I've progressed through to an adult. So I've seen it from sort of both sides of it. So my primary role as the DCAS junior rep is to keep an eye on all the juniors within my county. So I just want to go through a couple of things that I've picked up and I've learnt through being a junior rep. I've been doing this job I've been a junior rep now for 4 years, and I'm really lucky that, as I said, I sit on my county committee and I also sit on my club committee and support the juniors. So during the course of sort of me working as a junior rep, I've run open coaching sessions. So the last one we did was just before lockdown, and I was really lucky that I had about 30 juniors attending. I'm in a really fortunate position that I'm based at a club called Exmouth Archers. So we've got really amazing indoor facilities. So as you can see from the photos there, so it allows me to really run sort of big coaching sessions with the kids, well, before COVID, obviously. So some of the things that I picked up when we ran the coaching sessions, we always make them open for all abilities. It's always an open coaching session. So it gets everybody sort of integrating, gets everybody involved. We do it sort of an all-day session, so we'll do it from sort of 10 till 4. So we'll do a morning coaching and then we'll have fun and games. So there's all sorts of games that I've done over there, sort of the time as a junior rep. Buy to hit to miss, as you can see in that top corner. I've done kids shooting at balloons of lights on, and I've turned lights off in the indoor centre, so I've done sort of all sorts. So some of the things that I've learned is, as well as for the kids, but just for the coaches as well, is to make sure that we have some structure to the sessions as well. So I'm lucky I'm a teacher. So whenever I run my coaching sessions, I always make sure that I do a bit of a plan up with some structure. So if any of the kids come up to me and say, right, what are we doing next? I can say, right, you're doing this from then, and it just makes the sessions flow and move, and it also helps with the coaching element as well. So that bottom left hand picture, you'll see that one of the things that I did do was we purchased a load of clingy bands for the kids. So over the course of the last sort of 3 coaching sessions that we've done, we've purchased a clingy bands for all the kids. So everybody's gone away with the clingy bands as well as a sheet to show them sort of how to warm up. So when I quite often attend quite a lot of the local competitions, because I'm an archer myself. So whenever I go to the local competitions and I know my kids are there with their clingy bands, I get them to stand in the middle of the field and do a warm-up session with me. They go, oh, it's embarrassing, but it gets everybody sort of integrating as well. Also, actually, on some of my coaching sessions, I've had judges attend. So one of the things that was mentioned previously was people being scared about using the timing system, or juniors being concerned and worried about doing the using those timing systems. So a couple of my sessions, I've actually had a couple of judges come and explain some of the things that you have to go through when you're at a competition, so equipment checks and things like that, and actually get them shooting into that timing system. So again, that's helped with allowing them to make you feel a bit more calmer about using those systems as well. Within Devon and Cornwall as well, we're really fortunate that we have our own, obviously access to IANZIO, but we also have our own handsets as well, which we loan out throughout the county. So I've done competitions before where I've actually got them set up on IANZIO and I've actually got them using one of the things I've also found that the kids have been quite worried about is actually using and getting used to that score system. So we've done it like a proper competition, had the paper score sheet and the electric score system as well for them to actually get used to it as well. One of the things, like we said, that's been touched on previously that I've discovered, it's not just about educating the kids and getting the kids involved, it's actually educating the parents, and that's one big thing that I found in Devon and Cornwall. So I actually created a parent PowerPoint. So at the end of one of my coaching sessions, I actually did a parent session with my parents to actually go through things like the county team requirements and the selection criteria, some of the junior rounds and age groups, because some of the parents weren't sort of aware of that, certificates and rankings, awards badges that can be claimed. I also talked about like claiming GWAS and DCAS records and where to find them and how to claim them. I listed some good local competitions that that they can do. Basics like things to prepare for before a competition. We've all done there as archers, you all know that you've all been to competitions, you've left something. So I created a bit of a list of basic things to think about, because the amount of times that I've had juniors and parents turn up to competitions when I've been there and gone, oh, I've forgotten about this, I've forgotten about that. Another big aspect that I went through as well was actually parent behaviour. So I've been to a couple of competitions where I've had issues with parents not knowing how to behave during competitions and not knowing how to support their children. So actually, I'm sure Helen will flick through to that point, but you'll see that I actually quoted part of the AGB guidance on parental behaviour, because I've had over the years a couple of issues where parents haven't been behaving themselves properly, and I've sort of gone through that with them to sort of say, look, this is how we expect you to parents, and that's been quite beneficial, because I've seen a couple of juniors react because their parents getting angry with them and things like that. So that's been quite useful. At Exmouth, I'm really lucky. I've got amazing facilities. So we've got the indoor centre and we've got our own sort of outdoor area as well. So when we find juniors that perhaps aren't responding as well to the big coaching sessions, I try and sort of take them into the wing, and I'm very sort of open and say, sort of, if you guys want to come and do a one-to-one coaching session with me and my husband, we're both lucky that we're both level 1 coaches. I encourage them to come out to Exmouth. We're quite fortunate that Exmouth Archers is situated in quite a good place within our sort of county, where it's quite sort of easy to get to. So I quite often have juniors come up and do one-to-one sort of coaching sessions with me as well. So I want to go through a couple of things that we've done as a county as well. So we've done things like Redreef, so one of our clubs down in Cornwall, has run a junior only coaching junior only competition as well, so that was quite good. We have access to our junior fund, so if parents would like to buy any equipment for their children, they can get a £400 interest-free loan as well, which is good, and we've had quite a few juniors take that up. We've also created, as a county, we've created our own badge scheme. So we have DCAS stars and DCAS roses. So those can be claimed, all bow styles, and obviously score limits as well. As juniors, they're free for any juniors. So you can go to a competition, shoot around, and then you can claim that badge for free. So that's quite good. We also run postal leagues as well. So we issue certificates and medals, and they're run both indoors and outdoors as well, so that's quite nice. They get to see sort of how they compete against other juniors throughout the county. I'm really lucky as well as the junior rep. I have access to quite a nice little fund through the county, so I'm able to go out and sort of buy the equipment to run these coaching sessions. So as you can see, I bought the buy to hit to miss targets, are really good. I've sort of purchased Carnegie bands and things like that, and obviously that then pays for the hire of the facilities as well, which is really good. We also, as a county, we fund entry to for all juniors to any DCAS competition as well. So that's been quite good. We've had quite a lot of juniors taking that up as well, and obviously it encourages parents as well. So what have I personally done as the junior rep, and what sort of things have I I've learnt? I try and attend as many of our local DCAS shoots as I can. So whenever I go to shoots and there's a new junior that I haven't met, I always go up to them, I introduce myself to the parents, and I introduce myself to the junior. So they know who I am. They know that I'm a point of reference. They know that if they've got any problems or questions, that they can come to me and approach me as well. And I'm always very open about that. So say, look, anything, you must contact me. You must let me know. I'm here to help and here to support. I'm like I said before, I'm very lucky that I've seen it from both sides, as a junior and as an adult. I use that to my advantage. As I said, I always encourage juniors to come to Exmouth. So my parents and my juniors in Devon and Cornwall are quite talkative, so they always communicate with me on Facebook and via email as well. So if, for example, I know that any juniors are having issues with facilities or shooting or anything else like that, I'm always willing to sort of get them to come up to Exmouth with us. So it's even just having that little chance to be able to shoot, even if it's just for a couple of hours, that makes a world of difference. We're quite active on Facebook, so anybody who's got me on Facebook and knows that I've got a junior coaching session coming up, I'm always screaming and shouting about that. And I will always email and contact club secretaries as well to try and encourage as many juniors to attend those sessions as I possibly can. I also make sure I do as much as I can to support juniors. So, for example, the national indoors, I always compete as an adult on the Sunday. So I always go out the day before, because obviously a lot of my juniors do tend to go up and shoot on the Saturday. So I'm quite often between me and my husband running up and down the line like lunatics, keeping an eye on everybody and making sure. I get to a point sometimes, with the help and support of my husband, that quite often if juniors are having a meltdown, they'll come around to me and say, right, Soph, we need your help. And the parents won't bother talking to their children. They'll just send me or my husband in. So that's quite nice to know that parents can come and shout at me and scream at me and know that I can calm those juniors down, as I said, because I've been there before and they know the amount of competitions and the amount of, they know how competitive me and my husband are, which is great. And like I said, I'm in a really fortunate position that I do sit on my county and club committee. So I do see all the numbers. I see sort of every time the memberships renewals, I see the amount of juniors that I have on their books, and that really helps sitting on my county and sort of club committee as well. I'm quite lucky that I shoot longbow, so I have shot longbow for 22 years. So we do quite a lot of longbow coaching as well, and I'm really fortunate. I've even had juniors from other regions parents have come up to me at our sort of regional championships that have said, look, so can we have some help? So I've had guys from Somerset come up and have a bit of one-to-one coaching as well. And I've also provided some support for our sort of regional reps as well. So I'm lucky that I've been in this position for 4 years now. So I've learned quite a few tricks of the trade. So I've had other sort of local reps that come up, can you help with this or things like that. So that's been quite. So moving forward, obviously with COVID, it's quite difficult. But there's a couple of things that I really want to sort of focus on moving forward. It's trying to be more aware of sort of my other junior reps at a club level as well, and work out what they're doing to support juniors. I'd also like to work a bit more closely with the adult team members. So our committee has recently changed, which is great. The adult team member is very proactive. So I kind of want to work on getting those juniors that are coming up to that 18 and then moving into the adults, and work with the adult team manager to encourage those juniors to move on to the adult county coaching as well, because we have quite a good developed adult coaching sessions as well, which is great. And then just finding other ways to sort of run coaching sessions. I mean, like I said, the last coaching session I ran, I had 30 kids attending it, and we have a total of 45 juniors within Devon and Cornwall. So that was pretty good to have sort of 30 kids attending. But I'm trying to think on my feet at the moment, trying to think of ways where we can still run those coaching sessions, but obviously in line with COVID guidelines. So that's the sort of the next sort of thing on my to-do list. So yeah, that's just a few sort of thoughts and ideas that I've come up with.
That's brilliant, Sophie. Thank you very much. And there's so much information there, obviously a wealth from Sophie. So any questions that have been raised at this point?
Well, just to say, wow, that was amazing, and it's great that you've got such a great structure as a club as well as your county as well. That's fantastic. Mohammed was so impressed. He's asked if this is your full-time job.
Oh, I wish. No, I'm an MBQ assessor, so I actually teach. So I'm really lucky that I've been able to use, like we said before, the skills that I've gained as a teacher to help with the structure of the session, to help with organisation of events, to really help me sort of moving forward. So it's been quite beneficial.
That's brilliant. And Ben has said happy birthday. That's all the questions.
Yeah, happy birthday, Sophie. Fantastic.
That's all the questions for Sophie. There's a couple of comments. Rosie's put some really useful information in the chat box, right. And also Gary has got a good example from one of his juniors that wasn't interested in competitions that got interested in becoming a coach. So maybe at the end of the session, Gary can explain.
Yes. Yes, and we're getting very close to that point now, so that's really good. We'll be picking those points up. Thank you. Okay, so I thought it was really important, because I am aware that we've got juniors on the call this evening, that we'd give you some airspace if there's any junior on the call tonight that just wants to come on and say even one or two things, or how you found it when you first joined, or what you're focusing on now or next as a junior when you can get back to shooting. Then yeah, come on and tell us about your experiences, tell us your name, and you have the airspace. Is there anybody brave enough to come and say a couple of things? It's fine if you don't want to, but just to give you that space.
Maybe if people can just read Rosie's post, which was from Helen, and then maybe if they want to ask Rosie any questions.
Yeah, absolutely. We can use that chat box function if you prefer. Okay, well, that's fine. Obviously, you can chip in at any other point in the evening as well, or use the chat box. But it's really important to make sure that we're listening to our juniors and have that kind of really person-centered approach, and make sure that we know what our juniors need. It's really easy. Speaking personally for myself, I've definitely found that it's really easy to kind of presume that you know what people need, but very worthwhile stopping and asking. So just before we go into discussion, I wanted to point you to a number of different places and resources that may help you, depending on what stage you're at in thinking about junior archery and how you connect with junior archery at the moment. So just to whiz quickly through these, already been mentioned this evening, a couple of people have mentioned it, the Archery GB Club Development Programme on target. We have 3 specialisms within the programme, one of which is the young people specialism, but also been mentioned tonight the community specialism, and juniors really could be running throughout, because the 3rd specialism is the performance specialism. So obviously juniors would connect on all 3 of those levels. So worth thinking about. Are you an on-target club? If not, would you like to be? Is that something you want to find out more about through the Archery GB website, or do get in contact with us if you want a more in-detail discussion? Or if you are already on target, even in this time when we're not able to shoot so much, or not at all for most of us, is that a time that you could refresh your vision for the future, your goals for the future, which fits in really nicely with on target? Have you already got the young people specialism, or could that be something you want to work towards? If you did have it, it's actually to be renewed every 2 years, so it may well be time to renew it, and you can just click online and renew it. Something to work together with your committee on. What will be your vision for as soon as we can restart archery, you're ready to go. And as we've already mentioned, a massive resource are your junior archers. If you've got juniors in your club, then how are you involving them? Do they have a say? Could you invite a junior on your committee? If there already is juniors on your committee, do they have a say? Are they getting that time to really think about their ideas? Maybe for them to go and speak to other juniors so that they can represent them better. Are they involved in club promotion? Because probably would come up with new ideas about how you could promote yourself as a club, or new methods, or social media. Beginners courses, taster sessions and have a go events, really useful to have your juniors able to empowered and able to contribute at those, and to be able to connect with other juniors that might come along. There's the ambassador program, and Gail, I don't know whether you want to come off mic and take the next couple of points.
Yep, we have got an ambassador program that will be going 2 years in March. Majority of the ambassadors were young ambassadors, so we had 19 young ambassadors. We've got 5 student and 4 club ambassadors, but and we've got 9 mentors as well. I know 2 of you on the call tonight, so Mohammed and Declan, and we've also got Helen, who's one of our club ambassadors. And we're just so pleased with this initiative. The impact the ambassadors and mentors have had is absolutely amazing. After 6 months, we asked them just to sort of focus on 2 areas within their club, and it came back like 260 activities. And also to share the great work they're doing within our magazine and website. So passing on that information and just explaining that their journey. So yeah, volunteers is a really important part of your junior section. Also recently, we launched a volunteer campaign where we're trying to match volunteers that might have capacity to help other clubs or take on additional roles. So if you have any time as a volunteer or you're new to volunteering, then please let me know. Or also if you're a club and you need more volunteers, for example, you might need a safeguarding officer if you're starting up a junior section, and if you're really struggling to find volunteers, then we might be able to match you with an available volunteer. I'm not sure how many of you might link with the Youth Sport Trust school games, but that's a great way to access young people, and through Arrow's archery kits as well. Also, I know Roger was a really big fan of Duke of Edinburgh Award. We have got a flyer and we've got some example case studies, which again we can share after this call.
Thanks, Gail, that's brilliant. So just as we wrap up and go into discussion as well, just to point you to the other webinars, another opportunity to keep on that kind of development journey. Other webinars that are coming up are listed in the programme, which you can download from the Archery GB website, or if you're not sure, you can always contact me and I can help you with that. There's Monday Natters sessions, as we've mentioned. If you missed the beginning part, we mentioned how Monday Natters will be every other Monday evening on the same link that you used to get in tonight, to make it really easy for people to drop in. We do encourage you to sign up in advance, but you can just drop into those. And also the Club Matters website, which is a resource that anyone can log on to. It's open even if you don't live in England, but it is provided by Sport England. And there's a whole wealth of resources on there, including about young people, which is a little bit of a screenshot there on the screen, but there's a lot of other resources if your club is looking at some other issues at the moment. Plus they are having a new website very soon, just to give you a heads up that it might look different, but all that resource will be taken over into the new website plus more.